I found you from the Mushroom Hour podcast, actually, and was listening to your interview and said, "Oh my gosh, this sounds really exciting." And there were things that I'd heard you talk about that I hadn't seen other people cook or do. So um, then I was telling Sam about you, and then Sam said, "Well, let's call them up."
Well,
And
thank you for reaching out.
Yeah, we're excited. It's very cool.
yeah, and I like that Sam said apparently Camille said, "Well, we tend to be spontaneous." So this was really great.
Yeah, like I was telling Sam earlier, we both have our own independent businesses outside of this. Just Mushrooms is solely a passion project. So, doing something in advance usually doesn't work out, but knowing just a week before, we're like, we can do
that.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
And we did pull this together in about a week and a half.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am impressed too with the fact that you did the book in about 8 months, you said.
Yeah, it was, we just really pressed ourselves to publish it within a year. And it was, just really easy to bring our two skill sets together. And
it was the start of COVID, and the world seemed a little crazy, and this gave us purpose, and we allowed ourselves to be guided by the mushrooms themselves, and it really it came together very quickly and meaningfully, and it's led us a lot of great places, especially here tonight with all of you. It's exciting the way that mycelium connects us to people. I love that.
So I just mentioned Michelle is a plant-based chef after like a health crisis and
yes
things, and then Camille has a BFA, and it's from SCAD. I don't know if you attended Savannah or in Atlanta or in Hong Kong, or
I did Savannah and Hong Kong, yeah.
And so the combination of the two skill sets and being friends and cool people helped them be able to join in synergy and create this book. And so we're really happy to have both of you tonight. So
thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, so we are going to pin you now, and take it away.
Okay.
Yeah. I was kind of, as we were prepping earlier today, I was talking to Michelle about, the origin of Just Mushrooms, and Sam and Cornelia kind of know the origin story from the podcast, but to give some other people background, Michelle and I kind of independently both wanted to create a plant-based cookbook for mushrooms. And, I was kind of rambling to Michelle about morphic resonance and how, thoughts are not our own, and there's just spontaneously came to each of us. And it wasn't until, she was chatting to my dad at the farmer's market, actually, that he mentioned that I was working on something and she wanted to make a cookbook. So,
and this is before we ever met.
We didn't even know each other.
I knew her dad. And he knew I had a passionate interest in mushrooms. And so we were talking about what was next for me. And I said, I really would like to write a cookbook. And he said, well, my daughter would really like to design a cookbook. And that was the natural progression.
Yeah, super, super easy. And, with both, again, our skill sets, like Michelle's so wildly creative. And I think I brought I don't want to say discipline, but this organization and structure to be like, okay, well, I'm going to jot down your ideas from your notebook and we'll recipe test. And so we just kind of started having this, 5 a.m. on weekends, writing, and then researching together, eating and seeing if things would be good for the cookbook and replicable.
And we just decided that no matter what obstacle came up, we were just going to do it. So we found a photographer, and he didn't have necessarily a background in mushrooms or food, but we had him reading Mycelium Running, and we had him eating mushrooms and learning, and he took to it right away, and the pictures were beautiful. And whatever obstacle we faced, Camille would be on the counter angling things, you know, and we would work late into the evenings and early in the mornings, and we both kept our companies alive during COVID independently while doing this. So it was really, it was a true testament to the power of passion and mushrooms and being guided by them.
Yeah, we both, I think this was the most fun I think we've had. And it would just allowed us to do something for the sake of creating, not having like an end goal outside of just capturing, you know, plant and fungi based recipes, because there was a void. And, you know, we couldn't find anything out there at the time. And this is what, 2.5 years ago?
2.5 years ago, we could not find an all plant-based mushroom cookbook. And that was important to us because I had a health crisis, and, you know, I used to have 100 pounds more on my body than I do now. And so I lost 100 pounds and was able to, you know, go away from needing all these medications and feeling sick and tired every day to feeling lively and younger. And Camille's background in sustainability had kind of led her to the same conclusion that we needed to eat more plants, and that even more importantly, we needed to, you know, have that symbiotic relationship and support from fungi, and to consume them was the best way to help and support our bodies and our minds. And so we met at that bridge where there wasn't something, and we wanted to make something.
It was so much fun. I'll give you a tour of the kitchen here in a moment, but it was, you know, really rudimentary. We had poster boards and a slab of marble that, like, it took 2 of us to put onto the countertop, and then, like I said, just created.
But then when you look at like the pictures from the cookbook, you can't tell that we were doing that. You know, they turned out because we put all of our faith in the desire to do it, because we wanted it done, and it just came together. It was really a fun project to feel.
Absolutely. Let's see.
So if people have questions, please post them in the chat, and Cornelia or I will read them out for Michelle and Camille. And Camille, did you want to mention your dad's connection to our speaker we had just this last month?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Shiva was actually, I'll give some further, I need to back up. My dad is a retired pathologist and really interested into the scientific discovery of what mushrooms need to be cataloged. And, you know, we even built a little mushroom lab. And so he's doing DNA sequencing and barcoding, and just is kind of taking a deep dive into the scientific aspect of mushrooms. And so when Britt Bunyard and I forget the coordinator's name, but put together an expedition to look for new species in Nepal, my dad jumped on board and kind of made it a family trip. So my sister, mom, and dad actually went to Nepal to look for unidentified new mushrooms. And oddly enough, the speaker that presented last for your association was Dr. Shiva. And so it's kind of funny how small this community is still. You know, everyone is kind of open-armed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't know if you also want to talk about your separate businesses at some point. It doesn't have to be now, but just
sure. Yeah. So I, as a plant-based chef, I own a company called the Kula Connection, which is a food production company for vegan and gluten-free products here in Boise, Idaho. It's completely female owned and led, and we maintain the highest quality, the most carefully selected ingredients. We aim for sustainability, and we specialize in non-dairy cheeses and yogurts, and I have a whole line of mushroom products. So we do a preserved meat product like a steak strip, and a teriyaki ginger preserved meat product as well that's great in Asian dishes. And then I bottle and sell my mushroom broth. The recipe for that can be found in the cookbook. And then we also do a lot of catering. And so I've just started doing these all mushroom dinners, which are the most fun. I'll put mushrooms in every course and do a lot of education and take the mushrooms around and use them as the centerpieces and talk a lot about, you know, what they can do for people and really keep that educational aspect that we brought together for Just Mushrooms. And so I own a food production company, and Camille has a thriving business as well.
Yeah, I run a multidisciplinary studio here in Boise, Idaho, that focuses on sustainable packaging and printing solutions. Oddly enough, I have a focus on the cannabis and hemp industry, since they're a heavily regulated, need child security. And, you know, my background in industrial design has given me really, really niche foothold in that industry, since, you know, you need to create bespoke packaging solutions. So it's a really wasteful industry, and it has it doesn't have a closed loop. So my focus in that has been, you know, how can we make it as closed loop as possible? So, you know, I have a lot of outdoor clients, and so I'm really lucky to live in Boise, Idaho, and travel for work. But yeah, that's kind of my specific niche.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And whenever you're ready to switch, then I will pin. You'll need to turn on. Yeah, you'll need to turn on the audio or the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Because.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go on mute on this, and we're going to transition over to the phone and give you kind of a tour, and then we're going to start cooking our chicken tacos. So I'm going to show this on the laptop first, but if you have the cookbook, it's page 27, and we're going to walk you through our shredding technique. So just one moment as we transition.
So Sam, you actually want a spotlight, not pin, because spotlight does it for everyone.
Oh.
So that's what I switched to. That's why they're bigger on the screen.
Okay.
Okay. So kind of referenced the kitchen corner where we photographed everything. That's all it took, was just that little corner.
That was our studio.
Yeah.
That was our whole production studio.
All right. Okay. So here we are. We kind of did some prep with some shredding of the kings, which Michelle will demonstrate, and we'll walk you through our recipe. All right.
Okay. So this is a king oyster, and we prefer these for shredding because they have such thick stalks, and they make a very nice shred. And so I just tear a piece off that I can start with, and I get a fork that's easy for me to hold. And we just start to shred using the back side of the fork. And then I do all of it together because I like the play on the light and dark meat. When I'm talking to people about cooking mushrooms, you know, to take some of the fear out of it and some of the unknown out of it, I just tell them, you know, you can basically choose a mushroom that's suited for it and replace any animal protein with it. So in this dish, we're replacing a chicken, a shredded chicken, with a mushroom. And so this mushroom, because it shreds so nicely, and you can see that its filaments really allow it to look like very much like a shredded chicken. And when we mix the dark pieces from the cap in with the shreds, you get the effect of chicken. And so that's why I choose this mushroom for any of my chicken dishes. So we can make chicken tacos out of that, which is what we're going to do today. But you can also use this same filling for a chicken pot pie. You can use it for anything really that you would want to put shredded chicken in. And so we find these king oysters to be really great for the shredding method. And we thought it would be best to show you just some different methods, because you can take the methods and then, you know, create any dish. So just think of shredded chicken dishes, and you can go that direction with these. So now that we have, and I've already pre-shredded some, so we would have enough. We're going to take our shreds, and you'll just notice how much those look like chicken. Now there's a million ways you can do this, and you could take some poultry spice and just do a dry rub on here. But today we're going to use a green chili sauce that we have, and we're going to turn our stove onto about a medium, and we're going to give it just a little baby shot of oil. And Camille is telling me that we should turn the light on here, maybe this one.
I think we're good. I was just pointing out the olive oil. Yeah.
Okay. And then we're going to put our chicken in the pan here, our shredded oyster. Move him around a little bit, let that get warmed up. And then to that, we're going to add a green chili sauce. And so this is a green chili sauce. And as this gets warm, we'll poke it around with a spatula here. Thanks, Camille. We'll just poke this around and let it brown up a little bit before we add our green chili sauce. And then you can put anything in your tacos that you want to. In our cookbook, Camille has a family recipe for tinga tostadas. That's one of my personal favorites. She introduced me to that. One of the beautiful things about our partnership and friendship was the way that we fed off of each other. I did not feel as the chef that I had to be proprietary about where the recipes came from. Some of them came from Camille's family. Some of them came from she and Ketch and their own creations. And so you get some family recipes here, which is really fun. You can put anything on tacos. That's what I love about tacos. You know, you can change them seasonally. So sometimes your taco might have sweet potatoes or root vegetables in it. And sometimes it might have garden tomatoes like ours does tonight. All of the tomatoes came from Camille's garden. And so one of the best things to do with mushrooms is we don't want to cook them in too much oil because we want to allow them to express their own liquid, because mushrooms are mostly liquid. And so we want to allow them to express their own juicy mushroom water and cook in that. We're starting to get a little sizzle now, which is so great. And so as Sam said earlier, too bad we don't have smell-o-vision, but you could right now start to smell them because we're starting to get a little bit of a sizzle. All the mushrooms we're using tonight were cultivated locally here in Idaho at Groves County Mushrooms, which is a farm out in Parma. One of the things I've loved most about, you know, specializing in cooking mushrooms is really getting to know the farmers, and everybody has a slightly different technique for filling their bags or for how they rotate them or which mushrooms they're growing, and getting to know the farmers and work with them and having a personal relationship with them and their families has been so great. And so that's been one of my favorite things about the Just Mushrooms passion project that Camille and I did is I have all new friends. I have farmer friends, and I love that. So we've got a good sizzle going on now, and we're just going to add our green chili sauce.
Could you talk at all about how you made the green chili sauce?
Absolutely. So, Sam, I bought it.
Excellent.
The quick cheat sheet, but you could do a green hatch chili. You know, in New Mexico, that's a super popular dish is green chili chicken tacos, and they take the hatch chili and roast it on a comal or a fire, and then kind of just blend it with garlic and onions and make your sauce in that way.
Which is our absolute favorite. When I run my company and when we cook for people, we try to do absolutely everything from scratch, but we're also both busy professionals. And so we like to have two versions. One that can be done in 5 minutes and one that takes all day.
Yeah.
Because we'll go pick the food, we'll go forage the food, we'll make it, you know, we'll take all the steps and all the preparation. But we don't always have that time in our life, so we like to highlight local brands and you know, use some convenience products that are well packaged. And so this was a green chili that we found and really like the flavor of. And so this whole dish, the wonderful thing about this is this whole dish can be made in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so part of the thing that people are afraid of when they start to think about eating more plants is they don't necessarily know how to prepare them, and they think, well, that's going to be really hard. This is really easy and it will take only 10 minutes. And then I could eat this if I was just cooking for me and maybe Camille, I could eat this for a whole week. You know, I could have lunch every day and put fresh toppings on my tacos with my chicken meat. Or I could roll this into some enchiladas or taquitos. There's a million things to do with it once I cook it. And so everything we're doing tonight, we're doing just to show how easy it is to work with these mushrooms and how quickly this can be done.
I think we took the shortcut in the recipe. You know, it's kind of like the Spark Notes version of the cookbook, just making it accessible for people that are joining us on Zoom tonight to make this in their house after watching this video. So.
Absolutely. So we're going to let this simmer a little bit, and we're going to go over here and assemble our taco while that's simmering a bit. So we have some refried black beans. These are a nice corn tortilla that we have. And we're just going to take our refried black beans, and we like to put them down first so everything can stick to them. And if you've ever followed the Blue Zone studies, Blue zones are areas around the globe where people routinely live to be well past 100. They have large numbers of centenarians. You'll see that in addition to having a healthy lifestyle and doing lots of walking and having a sense of community, they eat tons of beans. So we like our beans. They go great with mushrooms. And then we're going to use some purple cabbage for color, because I like to try to eat the rainbow. Each of these plant foods offers different nutrients, and a lot of it you can spread out by getting the colors in. So we're adding some fresh tomato from Camille's garden. And now we'll go back over here and we'll get some of our chicken.
Do you want to slot it like a slit?
A slotted spoon would be the best thing ever. Thanks, Camille. So we're going to grab some of our chicken here. You can see how much that looks like chicken, and if you could smell it, you would be just in heaven. It smells wonderful. I'm going to put a little of our chicken right on here.
We might need a taste test this.
It
smells so
good. We might
good.
have to take a break and eat. Okay, so now we've got a little chicken on, and we'll come on back over here. Hopefully I'm not making
Oh, you're
dizzy.
fine.
Okay, and we'll give it a few more tomatoes because, you know, color. And then we'll do some of this avocado that we got here because yum.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got some beautiful sprouts, just because the micronutrients in sprouted vegetables is such a high concentration. We try to put microgreens on everything. And let's get a little towel and wipe up my spill.
Oh, you're fine.
A beautiful presentation. Here we go, Camille.
We're not shooting this for a cookbook. I think it's all.
It's okay. Okay. Ta-da! 10-minute taco.
And then, do you guys have any questions about this recipe before we move on to the next?
Once you've made the chicken, how long will it store in the fridge?
Usually 4 days.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you put it in a tightly sealed Tupperware on your top shelf where it's usually the coldest, you could probably keep it up to a week. I never am able to keep it more than 2 or 3 days. I've eaten it all.
I know, I'm looking at it. So
And
good.
we
And
had,
for a lot of my private catering clients, I will roll these into enchiladas and freeze them, and they freeze beautifully.
nice. And in this recipe, someone was asking, you didn't use any diced or chopped onions.
There's no onions in this because there was already some in the green chili sauce that we purchased.
Okay.
In the recipe in the cookbook, it calls for 1 small white onion for topping, but
And that's the thing I love about tacos. I had tacos the other night that I also put some tempeh on, and I had sweet potato, and tacos for me are endlessly a variation of whatever's in season and whatever tastes good with salsa.
yeah. So this one just highlights garden tomatoes, and my radishes didn't do so well in the heat this year, but it would have had radishes. So
these are things that we have on hand and that we love to play with the colors of and that complement the green chilies. So tacos are a big favorite, and 10 minutes, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna show you a lion's mane chowder, which is with fall coming, it's one of my very favorites. And so feel free to jump in if you have any questions as I go. The lion's mane is one of my personal favorite mushrooms. I'm sure you're familiar with it, but it's just so versatile and it's so mild. This is what I love about cooking with it, because it can assume the flavor of anything. I had a really fun spring where I did some pick your protein dinners with another chef, and he would use a traditional animal protein, and I would use mushrooms as the challenger. And I was able to use lion's mane for so many different things to mimic what he was creating. Tonight we're going to use the powdered version because we wanted to show you as many versatile different ways to cook and to store mushrooms as possible. So we're going to be using a powdered lion's mane to create our chowder. And so we're going to come over here, and this recipe does have onion. So we have one whole white onion that we're going to put into our Vitamix. And again, everything we're making is tonight for ease. We want to show you simple mushroom dishes that you can really get behind for maximum nutrition. And so we've put an onion in, and we're putting in 3 cloves of garlic now. And then what we have over here are some cashews that we soaked to help make them a little smoother for the blender and just a little easier to grind up. And so we're putting in a cup of cashews to make an extra creamy. And then this is our lion's mane powder. We're going to use a ½ cup of the powder. And then we have a ½ cup of nutritional yeast as well. And then we're going to add 4 cups of soy milk. And I like the soy milk for this recipe because almond milk can make it a little sweet. Coconut milk makes it too sweet. And so the soy milk is just right. And then instead of an additional cup of water, which is what the recipe calls for, we're going to be adding our mushroom broth. So this is going to make it extra umami. I love the mushroom broth for adding to rice or for anything that I want to have more flavor. And so we're going to be adding a cup of our mushroom broth to our already mushroom heavy delicious chowder. And then the wonderful thing about this is just that easy. And now all we have to do is blend it up. And we're just going to turn it up and mind the noise for a minute. And just that simple. It's not hard to blend that up. And now we have a stock pot here that we've already parboiled some potatoes. So these are nice and soft. And these will go in, I'm gonna eat this one. These will go into our chowder. It's very fun.
I'll get you a spatula.
Thank you. This gets much, much thicker as we cook it now. So don't be alarmed that it's so liquidy.
Or do you want a thicker one?
That'll work. Okay. So we now have our chowder base in here, and we're just going to really slowly bring it up to temperature. And we're going to allow those potatoes to finish cooking in there. And then what we do with this recipe is to create that clam chowder taste and feel. We will also cook some fresh lion's mane and have little pieces that we float throughout our chowder. But that's the base of it, and it's just that simple. So one of the things that we really wanted to do is create recipes that you could make and then you could eat and have mushrooms, you know, make up maybe 50% of your diet. You know, Camille and I get pretty close some days where, you know, most of what we ate was mushroom something. And so that's fun. This chowder really is very rich and soothing, and with fall coming on, people find, you know, a good chowder very comforting. So that's the base of the chowder. Does anybody have any questions about that? I'm going to get a spoon and give it a little taste and see where we are.
And then I'm getting the pan ready for the pan shredded pieces.
And did we mention that it starts on page 31 of the book?
Oh, no, we did not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
So it starts on page 31, and page 32's got a beautiful picture.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
Right. And there are people asking
That's the
about
finished product.
your source of lion's mane powder. You know, there's a company called Organic Mushroom that sells a lion's mane powder, but that's a powder that's got sort of the mycelium, the grain, the fruiting body, all of it mixed together. I'm suspecting this powder you're using is different than that. But
The powder that we typically use is I dry my own mushrooms. My farmer will call me on any week where he overgrew or where the farmers markets weren't well attended, and he'll say, I have this much extra, and I'll buy it and dehydrate it so that I have my own powders on hand. So what we're using is just the dried fruiting bodies so that nothing goes to waste.
Yeah, and I think we actually updated our website with a FAQ, and that's a question we get a lot. Is, you know, where do you source your powders or your mushrooms? And so if you go to our website, which is just-mushrooms.com, there's a good resource page there that you can visit where it has links to good fruiting body
reputable sources for powders, because you can't always eat all of the mushroom that you forage right away, or, you know, in my case where I work directly with farmers a lot, they can't always you know, sell everything that they grow. So dehydrating has been a great way to you know, expand our ability to keep our mushrooms. And so this is heating up now, and we're going to take we're just going to take a piece of lion's mane here, and we're going to just make some little clam-like pieces just by hand shredding it. And you can mix celery in with these, which give a little crunch. These become your clam pieces, and then the celery gives you a little crunch. I like to sprinkle a little cumin on top of the soup for presentation. And you'll find that it's so rich and it's so creamy that it just doesn't need anything else. I like a good thick piece of bread, and maybe a mug sometimes is a fun way to, you know, serve it. And it gives me all the cozy feelings. I absolutely love it.
Do you want me to grab another mushroom so that we can have more pieces for that quantity?
Let's just do a little bit right now,
for on
and then
top.
we can make some more later. So I'm just going to shred a little bit of this, and we'll cook it up. And Camille and I both have a really strong relationship to the Hericium arenaeus, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit while I cook this.
Yeah.
I have had a couple of traumatic brain injuries in my life, and have found the studies on lion's mane to be really, really compelling, and so was interested to see if it could in fact help me, and believe very strongly that it has. And so I try to eat some lion's mane every day, and I try to make sure I have some, you know, I make my own mushroom coffee, and that has lion's mane in it, and I try to make sure that, you know, I'm helping my brain as much as I can, and I believe lion's mane really does that. So we're just going to brown these little pieces just for a few minutes until they're golden. and then we'll float them in a bowl of chowder, and it will be amazing.
Let's see, I'm just gonna give this guy a
Give it a
light
quick
stir. It's already starting to thicken up. Does anyone else in the group add lion's mane to their coffee?
Oh, Camille, I forgot. We have some seasonings to add. So we have some oregano, some black pepper, and some salt to go in.
I bought some of the coffee mushroom, and we'll blend that mushroom coffee, and we'll blend it in with regular coffee when I make a pot sometimes.
That's
Ooh,
what
that
I
sounds
like
good.
to do, Sam. I like to pull a shot of espresso and then mix it in with some mushroom coffee. It's delicious.
And that was actually Richard from our club.
Oh, hi,
thanks.
Richard. I can't see the screen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we only see what we're cooking in our little Zoom screen. So
I really enjoy mushroom coffee. It's awful fun. What do you put in yours? What? I put cordyceps and then a myco blend and then some lucuma and some mesquite and some chicory. Oh, I love it.
That's
So
okay.
nice.
I'm sorry I didn't answer. I walked away because I also have a superfood creamer by Laird's superfood.
Oh yeah, the surfer.
functional. It's original functional mushroom creamer, and I really like this thing. So, I mean, I guess I could hold it up. I don't know if the camera. No, camera's not doing it.
And
Yeah,
Aurora.
Laird Hamilton has a whole line
There it is.
of superfood creamers with mushrooms and other superfoods. He's got like a ashwagandha and some mix of superfoods that are really good. They're good products.
It's good. I like it. It's different, but you get used to it, and I really like it now. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I really I started making mushroom coffee for a client and I loved it so much now I drink it. So these are sizzling away and you can see that they are, they really shrink down. I had a regular chef, not a plant chef, complain to me the other day that he was doing lion's mane steaks and that they were half the size he expected them to be. And I said, well, they are mostly water, so you got to let them cook in their own juice, and then they're twice as flavorful for the size. So we're gonna cook these down until they're kind of a chewy consistency, so that they feel like clam in your mouth. And we've got our soup ready, and we'll plate it up for you.
let me.
Want me to hold that? Or
Sure, I'll just.
okay, let's go.
Fish out a ladle.
We found a ladle. So we're going to take some of our chowder, and it's going to continue to thicken, but we want to be able to show you where we are right now. So I'm going to get some of these potatoes in here. Oh, that looks so good. Got this nice thick chowder coming on board. And then we're going to take our little lion's mane pieces, which are now all delightfully cooked and browned and smell so buttery delicious.
And in the cookbook, I believe we add some herbs to the lion's mane bits, right?
And I
and
put
some-
the oregano straight into the
Exactly.
into this chowder tonight. So you can do it the other way around as well. And usually we put a little celery, sometimes some nuts. But what you want to do is create that contrast in texture. And so here is a beautiful bowl of chowder. And again, that was so fast. You saw me blend it in the Vitamix. Everything I gathered was, inexpensive and quick to put together, all Vitamix mixed into a big pot. I can eat that all week. I can feed a family whatever I need to do. And I'm feeding them food that literally makes them smarter, that helps to repair, cognitive decline and can help us regrow some NGF. And it's very exciting to have this as a food. So this is one of our favorite go-tos, is this chowder.
Sweet.
Okay.
And I,
Stay over here.
yeah. Let's see. And then we're going to move on to steaks, unless anyone in the group has questions. I snuck a bite of taco. It's so good.
I did have a question. Michelle, would you be okay with talking about what you noticed as far as it helped?
Oh, absolutely. I'm an open book. Thank you for asking. So I have problems with balance and memory specifically, and my friends love me, but they know to watch out, because I'll sometimes run into things. My depth perception is not very good. And one of the first things I noticed is I was getting the lion's mane powder out of my vitamin cabinet. And this is after having taken it for about 2 months, and it fell and I caught it. This is not something I can do. That doesn't happen. And so I thought, wow, that was like a reflex thing.
Yeah.
Like, where did that come from? And then I started to notice that my recall was improving, and that I could place things better, and I was able to remember where did I leave things, which is a big stretch for me, because the part of my brain that was impacted by the injuries that I suffered were memory, recall, and balance. And so these things I have definitely noticed strong improvements in. And that's not to say that I could ever be a tightrope walker, but I can walk without falling down most days.
Yeah.
And I am probably not ever going to be a encyclopedia of recall, but my goodness, has it sharpened my recall, and it's really returned a lot of memories that I thought were lost. I can now place, especially with some help. Like if someone is talking to me about them, I'm like, yes. Yeah, I got it. It's definitely really helped me to be able to recall and to balance, and also to have a sense that I'm learning faster. I do believe that I am becoming smarter through the regular consumption of lion's mane, and that I am learning more quickly. Everything I know about mushrooms really is due to the friendship with Camille, and has come in the last 3 years. It's been such an intense period of growth, guided by the mushrooms themselves. And I'm happy.
It's been head on.
It's been head on. I'm so happy to share that, because it gives me great hope that they could do the same thing for many, many other people who suffer from, these kinds of injuries that you can't really see, but they can be debilitating to live with.
There are huge insecurities, at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Great. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Of course. So I'm going to get ready to cook these steaks. And so the first thing that we want to do is we're going to heat a little oil in our cast iron pan. And Camille has some beautiful rosemary infused olive oil here, and we don't need very much. And we want to go kind of a high temperature. And then we've got...
Should we wait till that gets hot?
Yeah. We've got 2 clusters of brown oyster, and we're going to grab another over here. And any variety of oyster will work. It creates a different effect. I like the white oysters personally, because they're more fragile. And so this pressing method, they is really quick with them. A big, stocky, hardy mushroom like this is going to take a lot longer to cook this way, but the result is amazing, because we season it every step of the way, and that constant pressing allows it to cook in its own juice and really creates the most robust flavor.
Do you want that back one on? Okay.
I'm going to move them to this one.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get the oil warm
Oh,
here.
sorry.
No, well, don't be. And so I love working with these oyster mushrooms, because they are so very versatile, and they're so easy for our farmers to grow. This is a food source that we can depend on. They give us all of the branch chain aminos. They give us vitamin D, vitamin B, and they're so helpful to our immune system. And so these are a quick, sustainable grow. My farmer produces so many of these. And so we wanted to show different methods. So we showed a powder, a shredding. Now this is a pressing method. And so now that my skillet is starting to get hot, I'm going to cluster up these oysters and fill the whole pan with them. And I can start to smell that beautiful rosemary olive oil. And I'm going to put just a little bit on the mushrooms themselves and allow that to run down. And we're going to kind of soften them up that way. And then as our skillet gets hot, if you've not ever seen this done, you'll be like, what is she doing? But this is a really fun way to cook mushrooms. We're going to take a clean cast iron skillet and we're going to put this one on top of the other mushrooms. And then I have a brick that I use to set on these because you really have to press it down. Look at that muscle. Like this is a mushroom muscle. You really have to press them down. And as they cook and you press, they release more and more juice. And so this is a really fun way to cook them. And with a heavy duty fibrous mushroom like this, you can go all the way through this method and then the barbecue sauce, and then you can toss them on your grill. And you can serve them alongside steak and people they just wow over it.
Yeah, we converted one of my closest guy friends who's kind of a meat and potatoes guy with this recipe.
Yeah, and it's just been so fun to see, what else can I do pressing mushrooms this way? And what else can I do using powders? And what else can I do shredding them or slicing them? And how many textures can I create? Another of our favorite recipes from the cookbook is a Krabby Patty that I make. And for that, I take these same super fibrous oysters and I run them through the food processor until they're, it's just a fine shred. And then I put some capers in with that and some artichoke hearts and some Old Bay seasoning, and we create a Krabby Patty. And really, this has been the most fun part of the Just Mushrooms experiment. No, it hasn't. The friendship with Camille has been the most fun part. The second most fun part has been, just really playing with the textures, because the number one thing that people tell me who don't eat mushrooms, and there was a gal earlier at the meeting who said, oh, my husband doesn't eat them. I know a lot of people like that. But if I change the texture for those people, it's often a game changer. So we're getting a good sizzle now, and I can start to show you how they're shrinking a little. So we're getting smaller, and we want to give them even more time before we flip them for the first time.
And in the cookbook, this is on page 39 in the entrees. So here's a little quick glimpse of this. This one did not photograph well, so it's not it's not photographed in the cookbook, but
so I have a question,
favorite.
Michelle.
Yes.
Would you ever take the top pan and put it back on the flame and reheat it some more before pressing down? I mean, would you do that?
You can, absolutely, and that can give it a real charred look. And so I usually save that for kind of finishing it so that I have some black lines on it. So if I'm not going to take it out to the grill, so that it does look like I charred it, so it has a real resemblance to meat.
Okay.
And that's so fun to do, because when I mentioned earlier, I did these pick your protein dinners where a regular chef and I, challenged each other to create the same dishes, but I used mushrooms and he used animal protein. And I made some Wagyu beef out of some lion's mane that I pressed.
Wow.
And seared, and I used a little handheld blowtorch to sear it, and a smoking gun. There's so many things that you can do to really create levels of flavor within the mushrooms, because to me, they're like a tabula rasa. They're like a blank canvas waiting for me to add flavoring and texture profile and create from. It's so fun.
And so did you, for the week beforehand, massage the Wagyu mushrooms every day like they do with the cows?
You bet I did, and I played them classical music, and I told them bedtime stories, and I loved them, and yes, I did.
Yeah, I'm seeing in the chat a little bit about the weight. And yes, Michelle usually does have a brick that she places on that. But you can kind of see everything shrinking down, the water being expressed.
And then when we get them about half the size of what they were, we go ahead and get under them and flip them over. And you can see they're starting to brown up really pretty.
Wooden tongs are not ideal, are they?
No. But we're
want a
making it work. I'm getting it. There we go. So we get them all flipped over like this, and you can see they're just starting to brown, but we're really starting to get a good sizzle. And so rather than cook in too much oil, sometimes what I like to do is add some of the mushroom broth at this point.
And that's that recipe is actually in our wellness section.
The mushroom broth, it is.
Right.
It's one of my most favorite things to give to my friends when they're not feeling well. In fact, when someone has COVID, I have my company drop off mushroom broth on their doorstep because it's the most soothing thing.
It is.
When you are not feeling well, it's so soothing.
And I noticed you didn't use tons of broth in there, just enough to kind of get some flavoring and liquid on the bottom.
Right, because I still want the mushrooms themselves to release most of the juice, and I love for them to cook in their own juice. And so I'm just encouraging them to continue to break down by adding a little broth. And we'll repeat this process over and over. This is a longer recipe, but as you can see, it's not hard. It's just, it takes a little while to cook them this way, but the result is fantastic. And so I'm really pressing now, and you can kind of see that the pans are flat against each other. Remember, we started way up here, and now we're coming down quite a bit lower. So we're gonna give a little check here, and you can see how beautifully they're floretting and just looking so pretty. And so now what we're gonna do is, you can make a dry rub with what I normally do, but we bought a barbecue seasoning that's plant-based, and we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna give our mushrooms some added flavor. This seems to have a little trouble coming out.
There we go.
So we're going to, mushrooms can take a lot of seasoning, like they really absorb it well. And so that might look like a lot, but don't worry, it's gonna be delicious. I never over season. So now we're gonna give these a flip and let them cook on that side.
Do you need a shallow dish to dredge?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I can get one after I flip this guy. So now you can see we don't need any more oil or any more broth. We've got plenty of liquid, and we're gonna do a little more dry rubbing. And then we're gonna put our cast iron right back on top here again. And we're gonna press these out. Ooh, I'm starting to smell that barbecue. It's amazing. Did this work for dredge? Yeah, absolutely.
Michelle, I know the recipes in the cookbook, but could you talk about your broth, just a little bit about making the broth, what you put in?
I would love to, dear. So I get a big cauldron, and I get all my ladies with me, and we dance around. No, I'm kidding. Only a little kidding. But we really do get a big cauldron, and it's a shiitake-based broth, so it has this wonderful deep umami. And then it has oysters, it has some chaga, it has lion's mane, and then I add things like collagen peptides. It's got black garlic in it, which is a very good cancer fighter. It's got leeks, which are a heavy metal detoxifier. It's got ginger, it's got garlic, which are anti-inflammatories. It's got pepper, it's got miso. It has so much flavor, and I really engineered it layer after layer to taste similar to a bone broth, but to be based on the most medicinal of mushrooms and to have nothing that was harmful to your body, but only supportive of your immune system. And so people buy this broth from me by the gallon, and they tell me that it cures everything from COVID to inflammation. It fixed my knee. I'm like, okay.
And you can use the same ingredients like 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
And so that's the beautiful thing about this recipe too, because if you look at the ingredient list, it looks like a
massive.
spell. It's massive. But you know, you can use
And
it for your
I
own.
really do. I keep all of the vegetables that I use and all of the mushrooms, and I keep them in just a little bit of stock, and I will reuse them time and again until I'm not getting broth anymore. And then we press them so that we can get a little more flavor out of them. And then
You can
we
put it in
grind
dog-
them up and compost them.
Well, and I've even used it in my dog food.
Oh,
So
yeah.
all the
Nothing
ingredients.
gets wasted.
Yeah, you can, freeze it or just grind it up in powder. And I just add it to my dog's food. I figure if it's good for us, it's good for them. So we try to repurpose as much as we can. Again, focusing on the closed loop.
And we're
These are
really
looking
getting some
really-
good gristle now. We want these to end up looking like steaks. So we're getting a lot of that good gristle on here now. And we're gonna add a little more dry rub at this point.
Wow.
I know it looks like a lot, but
You can imagine the flavor though, and it goes through layer and layer of the dense fiber of the mushroom. And so it's not nearly as much as it looks like. And we're gonna give it just a little more moisture here.
Mhm.
And we're gonna press it one more time. And then we'll be ready to dredge it in barbecue sauce.
And the barbecue sauce is part of the recipe in the cookbook. But again, since we wanted to focus on 3 easy recipes and kind of modified it with the store-bought barbecue sauce.
Yeah, and so what I look for when I'm gonna buy something instead of make it myself is in a barbecue sauce, I don't want high fructose corn syrup, right? I don't want that. So I look for natural ingredients, things that I can pronounce that don't have crazy preservatives. And then I look for lower sugar, right? Barbecue sauce is a place where they hide a lot of sugar. And so this is a lower sugar barbecue. And we're just gonna put it into a shallow pan here. And we're gonna go ahead and get all that out of there. Bloop, 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 bloop. Okay. And then I'm gonna give this a few more final presses. All that piece is coming out. I'm getting up on my tiptoes and getting some leverage on it. Getting a little steam facial while I'm doing it. It's lovely. I love cooking. And these are.
Do you want me to bring this over here?
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll take this big guy here. He looks about done. Well, let's get him a little longer on that side. We're gonna go one more time on this other side because we want a little more brown, a little more gristle on this side. Just a little bit more here. Put this back on one more time. I'm gonna get up on it and get some leverage again. And then this makes wonderful, like you can serve it as your entree with a mashed potato and some asparagus. It looks like steak, it tastes like steak. Or I'm big into sandwiches. Like I am a sandwich girl. Like I love a steak sandwich. So this is one of my favorite things to just really indulge in. Or I'll make several because they keep very well in the refrigerator. And then I reheat them on my little Foreman grill. Remember those things?
So good.
Yeah. That little Foreman grill is the best way to reheat these. And then I make quesadillas or anything that I would want steak and eggs. Like I'll do a tofu scramble with some pieces of this in there. It's delicious. So lots of uses and so good. Okay, I think we're about there. Yes, looking lovely. So we're gonna take one piece of this. We'll start with this guy. And we're gonna bring him over here.
And just lightly kind of
Just
dredge
lightly kind of dredge him. Do we have a plate, Camille? Over this way?
I think we're spread out over here.
I usually have it in the right spot, but here we go. There's our steak. Pretty exciting.
As indulgent as mushrooms get, I think.
Voila. It's going to be amazing. So I'm going to get a fork and a knife, and Camille and I are going to taste all the creations for you while you think of a few questions for us.
I am curious if you've gotten to try that with either yellow or pink oyster mushrooms.
Yes.
I haven't. Michelle, yeah.
I buy everything the farmer has because I'm just so big about supporting the farmer. But the pink oysters make a really fun, like a salmon pressed this way. So I'll pile them high and then sprinkle them with some nori flakes, and then lay a piece of nori on top of them and press them this way. And I can create a very, very salmon-like steak with the pink oysters. And then the white oysters I'm really partial to because they don't take near as long to cook. This method takes a very long time with the mushroom I chose tonight, but its density also allows.
Show you guys her cutting.
The cutting.
It's very steak-like.
The density of this mushroom gives the most steak-like quality. And so I just want to show you this piece of it is so steak-like.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to eat it because, I love you, but I can't share, so I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
Yes. All day long, yes, you want that. Oh, here, Camille, you try it.
As they said in where Harry Met Sally, I'll have what she's having.
Yes,
so good.
yes, you should. Stick to that. Stick to that. So good. This is a favorite for me. And it's just, if I was having a birthday dinner or something, this is something that I really love. Because that rich flavor is just something that
we miss so much.
And our bodies crave.
Yeah.
And this is a delicious way to eat more sustainably and more healthfully for your body.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone in the groups at least cultivated once at home, but it was really fun to see, home grow kits kind of take off during the pandemic and people reconnecting with their food on their countertops. And this is a great mushroom to grow.
Easy to grow,
Easy,
right? Like
super
easy to grow oysters and so many uses.
Yeah.
So many uses.
Let's see.
So I was also curious, Michelle, because you said you went head to head with somebody who's cooking Wagyu beef. There's a lot of fat in that beef. So I was curious what you did for kind of matching that.
Oh, that's a great question. And so, again, I cooked the mushroom in its own juice, but we also used oil. We used some olive oil, and we did a slow cooking process so that I could carefully preserve the moisture. And then I charred it at the end so that I was careful not to cook all of the moisture out, and I really did hand massage them. You're gonna laugh at me, but I made a beet juice barbecue sauce, and I really did hand massage the mushrooms and worked that in with my hands. And then we sweated them. I put them in a holding oven, and we sweated them so that the moisture really came out. Just like I spent, I'm a little embarrassed to tell you, I spent 8 hours cooking the mushroom steak.
I believe it. I mean, I do. And this was for that specific dinner where it's like you cut into the mushroom and it like bled.
It bled.
It was,
Nice.
beet juice. So
Well, I had to win,
Well, considering how much time and energy they put into raising the cow, I think 8 hours is nothing, actually.
You're right. You're
Not
right.
saying it wasn't worth it. I'm just saying if you're comparing, then
Yeah.
hours, gallons of
8 hours
water.
is magic.
Gallons of water is a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so, and it was super fun too. I'm not ever complaining about that. I'm like, I didn't even, this is silly, but I didn't even know what Wagyu beef was. He said, I got you this time. I'm bringing Wagyu beef. And I'm like, Google, what is
You
that?
basically have to taste test it by like massaging it and smelling it. Yeah.
Nice.
So I have a question in,
Yes.
not sure what your growers do, but obviously in the winter you're not foraging a lot of mushrooms. So, and your farmers, I mean, do they, I assume you're also not having farmers markets that much in the winter. So what do you do with your growers? And
My growers will deliver to my commercial kitchen. They depend on restaurants during the winter. And if we don't buy from them, they close down and go out of business. So I really rally the other restaurant owners and caterers that, you know, come winter, we need to double down on our mushroom dishes and buy from the farmers directly because they don't have that outlet. But farmers are savvy and survivors, and so a lot of them have found ways to put their mushrooms in local co-ops and stores, and then some of them sell online as well, and will bring them to you if you order enough. And
they're kind of branching into capsules and just finding their own kind of like
grow kits,
you know, little markets to kind of stabilize them through the winter. But
and all of them farmers we work with do indoor grows. They're using shipping containers generally because our mushrooms are so amazing. You know, they don't need the soil or you know, even much light water or air. They're just the most resilient. I love them.
Oh, our member who has a daughter who's a mushroom farmer and grower in Alaska.
wow,
That's radical.
that's really cool.
I would love to meet her.
She would love to meet you, but she said she's ordering the book for her right now. So.
Oh, thank you guys
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
I mean, you're literally seeing, you know, we had to use Amazon. That's something we should have touched on in the introduction. But, you know, this is a passion project, so we self-published and not having to keep massive quantities of books and focusing on sustainability. Surprisingly, Amazon uses 80%, you know, repurposed materials, and we kind of vetted that before choosing to print with them. So I know some people, it's the world we live in. So thank you for supporting us even through ordering through Amazon.
Yeah, we have just been happy to get the book out there, and I've been getting more requests to do informational mushroom dinners, and it's really where my true passion lies. And I love walking around with a big chunk of chaga and serving some chaga hibiscus tea, and walking around with a big chunk of lion's mane and serving Camille's mom's lion mane ceviche. Oh, so the ceviche in the book. That is the thing that people lose their minds for.
Nice. Cool.
That's awesome.
Does anybody have some other questions?
I had a quick question.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you've done any, if you've experimented with any wine pairings with the different dishes, and if
We
so,
have, you know, we actually have a YouTube video. I can send you it in the chat.
please. Yeah, and I'm also kind of curious if you found that versus the original meat dishes, do you find that that using mushrooms, that those pairings that you want to pair differently?
You know, that's a great question. I would say it's tricky, you know, because I transitioned into a plant-based diet, 1 for sustainability, 2 for ethos, but 3 is because I suck at hunting. And, you know, so I do have a lot of background with eating game, and that there are mushrooms that to me actually substitute it better. My palate for wine isn't, you know, anything high caliber like a sommelier, but we do have friends that are sommeliers.
The chef I
do
throw
those
down with
pairings.
for the protein dinners, pick your protein dinners. He's a fancy sommelier from Chicago, and we did the side by side. So he did the Wagyu and I did the lion's mane, and you know, everybody had the same drinks, and we weren't sure like how was that going to work, and it worked beautifully. In fact, everyone preferred the mushroom tenants more than they found, like they found those picked up and carried the wine tenants further than what the animal protein was. And so we've had very good luck being able to kind of match really well. And I've had a lot of fun because I don't drink. So I've had a lot of fun making, you know, some non-alcoholic mixers with the mushrooms as well. There's a lion's mane green tea bubbly drink that I love to do. And then I did a mango chaga drink, you know, and just having fun with playing with the pairings, even outside of wine, has been a whole new world for me.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. We could share a few of our favorite recipes from the book too. There's a cookie recipe in there for a lion's mane sugar cookie, which is one of my favorite things to have with coffee, because it tastes an awful lot like a biscotti.
It is, yeah.
And it's just, it's got such rich tones of nutmeg, and the lion's mane just gives it this earthy nuttiness. It sounds maybe a little out there, but really try it.
It's most people's favorite, honestly.
It's really a unique thing, and if you buy a little mushroom cookie cutter, then it's the cutest thing too.
It is super, super cute.
And then Camille's got a chaga tea recipe in there that, you know, I don't know if you mind telling that story, but we both came to mushrooms to find help for ourselves in a way. Mine for my traumatic brain injury, and Camille has this story that she can tell you about turkey tail tea.
Turkey tail tea. So surprisingly, you know, my mom got West Nile, I think it would be 4 years ago now, and we were just starting to get into foraging, starting to get into mushrooms, and my husband mentioned, you know, turkey tail tea might be helpful for her and just combating some of her symptoms. And so we connected with a local forager here in Boise, and he was so kind. He gifted us this whole log. It basically looked like a wreath of turkey tails, and gave us his basic guidance on creating a tea. And so she had that and immediately started feeling better. And even to this day, you know, she incorporates that into their daily regimen. So Ketch and I are obligated to go into the forest of, you know, North Carolina and forage suitcases full of turkey tails to keep up, you know, with their turkey tails consumption. But it's been night and day for her health and well-being. And I think we all kind of get to that point where we crave that little rituals. So in the summer, they do the crock pot method, pour it into a big vat and let it cool off in the fridge. And then they add a little bit of bubbly water to it. And so they got this nice kind of effervescent turkey tail tea. So that's a kind of a fun twist on that recipe.
I think another seasonal favorite of ours was we had a good year of morels, and we had to dehydrate some. We just couldn't eat them all. Which sounds crazy, but you know, you get lucky sometimes. And so then I made a cornbread waffle that we rehydrated the morels in, and it's got some green onion in it and little flecks of red pepper. And it was just, we just wanted to eat waffles. We didn't even want to put anything on it. So I think the opportunity to explore with mushrooms in the cooking realm is just truly endless. We've had the most fun on this journey. And I think if you take anything away from our presentation today, is the authentic love of exploration and allowing yourself to be guided by the mushrooms. You know, Camille opened to another of our absolute favorites because I love the story of the little fairy ring mushrooms, which, you know, the ones that grow in your lawn and they pop up in a circle, and you know, you probably think you should run over them with your lawnmower because what are they doing there? But Camille harvested them and dehydrated them, and then I was like, wow, can we really eat those? Fairy ring mushrooms can be eaten? Because in the Irish culture, and I'm Irish, like they really believe that those appear where the fairies danced. And so I didn't really know that I could eat them, but I made donuts out of them, and it was amazing.
So you know, I experimented with adding them to waffles and just like an easy premix, you know, adding the powder to waffles, and it gave it this like almondy, vanilla, nutty flavor that was super good. Michelle tried that and took home, I think, a little jar of fairy ring powder to experiment with, and came up you know, I think the story of the fairy rings lent itself to
the donut.
So she expanded on that and really created something special. And
Then we put
so
a maple glaze with maitake bacon because,
Yeah.
you know, maple and bacon.
And the maitake bacon's in here as well. I think that's yeah.
Those are some of our fun favorites. We're happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Right. I was curious if you know the scientific binomial name for the fairy ring mushroom that you're using, because lots of mushrooms grow in fairy rings. So
The ones down here are usually toxic.
right. So you want to be careful.
Absolutely. Let me get to, I think I have it in the appendix.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make that clear for people. So
Oh, I absolutely appreciate
I can make this, you know, like.
Yeah, do be careful because, you know, from region to region, things can change quite dramatically when it comes to foraging. They can look similar but be very different. We have here some that are clearly edible, but that's not always the case. And so even if it still grows in a circle, that can't be your only identifier.
Right.
Camille taught me, because I was a baby in the foraging world, she's like, you have to have triple identification at least.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. And then we did the bitter test, and you know, my husband and my dad are definitely more into the ID and foraging, but I think it's the Marasmius aureus.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right. I think a pathologist would be more careful about that. Actually.
Yes, absolutely. I recently went to Oregon on a hiking trip and identified some king boletes, and it was the first time without Ketch and my dad that I was eating mushrooms that I identified without my ID book, which looking back, I'm, you know, a little bit reticent to tell this story, but I was like, okay, I did the little bitter test, I cut it open, nothing bruised. Like I had all these parameters that I was like, okay, it's safe to eat. And, you know, started slow and low, everything went well. And then the next day it was like, okay, game on. These are delicious. But that first time you ID a mushroom that you've, you know, harvested 100 times elsewhere in a new state definitely gives you that eerie feeling, making sure you want to be spot on.
And that's why, you know, the triple identification, you know, it's never just one thing. You need to make sure that you've checked, you know, the underside, and you've maybe used an app, and you've maybe used a book, and you've also given it the bitter taste, and, you know, done everything you can to make sure you're looking at what you think you are.
Yeah, there is a king bolete lookalike that's really, really heavy, and it's made people amazingly sick. So you just want, and I think the differences are the weight, and that it stains a little bit yellow down at the bottom. It's kind of subtle. So
that's what I was looking at. This is hindsight, right? So I made, once I got back to connection and cell service, I was looking up, you know, lookalikes, because I do remember that bruising was one of those IDs to look for. So it's really, really nuanced, like you said, the really just slight yellow at the stem. So they got lucky, I think, but again, wouldn't recommend it being out of cell service or without a proper field guide.
Right. So Camille, I was wondering if there are any recipes or mushroom tasting experiences that your family members got to experience in Nepal that they kind of brought back with them or mentioned, or.
Yeah, so, you know, I don't think they actually got to eat any of the mushrooms. They more did cataloging, and then I forget, there were 2 mycologists that took back species to further, you know, barcode and identify and catalog. So I'm gonna follow up on that and see how that went, you know, what's becoming of those discoveries. But culinary experience, I don't think there was much of that.
They said they had a bit of this upset stomach most of the time. It was a hard trip to, you know, kind of travel and adjust to the altitude and all of the daily excursions, and lots going on.
Yeah, hiking like 10, 12 miles a day at elevation. So it was not a faint trip.
All right.
I'm really curious about the ceviche recipe because that's something I used to make. I haven't made it in a while, but maybe I'll make it again now that I know I can use mushrooms.
Yeah, it's so good. Fresh lime juice when it's hot, like it has been, it's so good. And it's Camille's family's, traditional recipe from Mexico, and it's so pleasing. I've fed it to so many people, and not a single person knows that it's not whitefish.
It's so
they
good.
just love it.
Yeah, so they actually discovered, using Combs tooth because it had that little seafood smell and flavor to it. And then they grilled that just to give it, make sure it's thoroughly cooked. With all mushrooms, you want to make sure you're cooking everything. So you get a little nice char on that, and then you shred it into little bite-sized pieces, like fish bite-sized pieces, and then soak that in serrano chilies with cilantro, tomatoes, and white onion, and some lots of lime juice. But that's kind of the finished.
I'm going to buy the books. I don't need the full. I'm definitely going to buy your book. Well, so that was the main question I had, is raw versus cooked. So you cook them. And the other thing is, I've never found a Combs tooth. Well, no, that's bear's. Is that the bear's tooth? It's in the Harisian.
It has a couple of
of
names.
nicknames. So people use.
Oh, I did find that. Okay.
But you don't have to use that one.
Lion's mane works well too.
I hardly get out foraging as much as I would like to, and so I buy lion's mane from the farmer, and it's delicious.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and going back to the website, if you guys, can't find a specific mushroom from the cookbook, we have kind of like
Some
gentle
alternatives.
substitutes. Yeah, so this versus that. So if you can't find that,
Another mushroom that grows in the McCall area here, called the coral mushroom, that is quite tasty in that as well.
the
Very
yellow.
good. Thank you.
Yellow coral.
Yeah, I know. That was a really cool background.
Yeah. I'm surprised that everybody else doesn't have it. I just found it on Zoom. So
I am curious if you've gotten a chance to cook with the beefsteak mushroom.
I have
No,
not.
we have not. We're, I think we were limited to what we could find here or forage here. At one point, we tried getting lobster mushrooms from Washington for my sister, who was foraging out there in, Hen of the Woods. And we, with that 8-month timeline, there was only a window of like, okay, morels, forage, oyster mushrooms, and lion's mane. So
And what we could
maitake,
cultivate,
yeah.
and then we hope to do, some additional recipes to offer on our website. And
Yeah.
we continue to try to add to our YouTube channel and expand what we're doing with different mushrooms as they become available to us. So if you can hook up the beefsteak, I'm gonna cook them.
Okay. And another mushroom I'm curious about is also if you've gotten to cook with the cauliflower mushroom, which does grow with pine trees. I don't know if it grows in your area or not, but you said you had mostly pines, so.
So, I'd have to look back. We harvested a ton of yellow coral fungus, and I believe that in that area there was a lot of cauliflower mushrooms as well. But I'd have to check back in our jar of specimens. We dehydrated all of them since we, they're sizable, and cooking them fresh was a little dirty. Since, they grab onto a lot of dirt, we just decided to hang them up and dry them. So I don't recall specifically finding cauliflower. So hopefully this next year.
Every year it's like a gift. What's going to be out there for us to play with?
Yeah.
what about chanterelles?
Oh yeah.
Only in Colorado. I went to Telluride Mushroom Festival last year and was lucky enough to find them there. And there's probably nothing more delicious than fresh chanterelles and the smell that
Wonderful.
just heavenly.
They're still out here in Atlanta.
Very, very jealous of that.
Yeah. I was it chanterelle jelly they were talking about
Yeah,
earlier. We heard you guys talking about chanterelle jelly, and we were like, oh.
So it's actually Trent and Kristen Blizzard's cookbook. And because of living in Colorado, they were able to pick both the chanterelles and the apricots at the same time. So they made a
That's
apricot
fantastic.
jam. And then this class that we're getting ready to teach starting on Sunday, I was like, I can't really find apricots right now, but wait a minute, we have peaches. And so we made it with peaches. It's delicious. So
I'm sure it's heavenly. I just want some. You have to go on a trip.
Right. We'll have to figure out an exchange with the popcorn seasoning and the jam.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to talk about the popcorn seasoning a little bit too?
Sure. So that one's a fun story. Ketch, again, my husband, he's kind of who was the catalyst to my family discovering mushrooms. He's got a morel tattoo on the bottom of his foot. And Ketch was playing around with popcorn seasonings. And we eat popcorn probably like twice a month for dinner. It's that good, and we make a huge sizable portion. But we take cooked dehydrated shiitakes, blend them up in a blender, and create a nice powder, and then add garlic powder, onion powder. In the recipe he adds beri, which is an Ethiopian spice to give it a little bit of a kick, and a lot of nutritional yeast. And it is so good. You basically pop your popcorn in a pot like you normally would, and then throw the popcorn in a paper bag, add your seasoning in the paper bag, and then shake that up, and it coats it up really nicely. And Michelle's taken it on a few adventures. And people that have had that,
they just love it.
Love it.
It's addicting. You just keep eating it, and then there's endless flavor variations. I've added some Old Bay, and
you just did that too.
and some nori flakes, and made it a little more seafoody, and it's so fun.
It's so good. Yeah, so you can just kind of adjust that recipe to your spiciness level, or like Michelle added some fun spices to it. It's super playful.
Sam, we'll have to get the recipe and maybe make that for the potluck on December 10th. So.
Well, it's in the book.
Right.
It is in the book.
Okay.
Okay, well, feels like we're kind of wrapping up. And speaking of wrapping, eat that taco.
I know. I
do. Shoving little bites.
Well, show us. Roll it up and show us a big bite.
Okay, you got it.
All
right,
there we go.
We'll do it. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yes.
Ooh, good bite.
That's how a taco's meant to be eaten.
Yummy. Had dinner and you're making me hungry.
You guys, I wish you could take some of these home with you, because we made a lot of food.
And so, besides, like, you have a website. Do you have an Instagram account? How are other ways people can? Do you have a YouTube channel? How can people follow you?
We're on YouTube, Just Mushrooms Cookbook, and then on Instagram it's _mushrooms. And we're pretty active on the Instagram, whether it's through Michelle's Kula Connection business and what she's up to, or me through foraging and my adventures. We're not experts by any means. This is our journey with mushrooms, and so it's a really open platform if people want to educate us.
And we love to learn and share. And so, as we post new content, it's always like, we tried this and it was rad, so here you go. And we never claim to know even half of what there is to know, but we're being, really guided by what feels intuitively right with the mushrooms, and really trying to sporulate knowledge to eat and consume more of this wonderful part of biodiversity, and return some good balance to our guts, and really, it's such an amazing food for us. And so that is just at the root of everything we do is how can we spread it?
Yay.
That's so great.
And I mean, fiber and flavor you know,
Yep.
with nutrition packed in all of it. It's just so great.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And so you can catch us on Instagram. We have a lot of new content all the time. And YouTube, we have some fun videos there. And we're always working on adding things. If there's something you'd like to see us cover, just let us know, because we're always looking for topics. If you want to see two adventurous young women go out and like try something, we'll do it, because we love cooking with mushrooms and taking pretty pictures of food and learning about foraging and growing mushrooms. And Camille and Ketch have some great videos on there of mushrooms they were growing in straw in their bathtub. So you know, we do everything how a home grow kind of situation would look, and we learn as we go. So we would love for you to follow us on our journey.
Yeah, I'm sending you guys our YouTube and then our website so that you can follow us on Instagram and see kind of what we're up to.
Excellent. And I had another question as we get there. Is you both have kids, yeah? And
I hope Camille will have kids someday if she
Okay.
decides to, but she's at a place in her life where, you know, she hasn't totally decided yet. We're
no, that's completely understandable, I guess. But my question was, how are the kids at eating mushrooms?
So part of the reason I learned to disguise the mushrooms and play with so many textures, they're not great at eating mushrooms.
Yeah.
They are easily influenced by their friends and by the media. And so my kids are all plant-based. I have 4 kids and they're all plant-based, but they really, the older ones love mushrooms, and the younger ones, if they think there are mushrooms in it, they don't want to eat it. So that was when I first started to put them in the food processor and make patties out of them. That was when I first started to shred them, so that, you know, it was really to encourage the kids to eat that I started to play with the textures.
So we owe them a debt of gratitude.
Never thought of it that way, but yes, thank you.
And is there a plan to do a sequel to this cookbook?
We sure hope so.
Yeah.
We are right now keeping a log of new recipes. I can't stop creating, and we're trying to decide what that should look like. And we've been putting some informational videos up online about, you know, how to go to the store and pick out good mushrooms, or, you know, a wine pairing sort of thing. And then we hope to provide a lot of new recipes soon online. And then when the time feels right, we're definitely going to consider a second edition.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we're just discovering new varieties and ways to cook all the time.
And Camille's got me out foraging now, which is a whole new world.
That's super fun. Yeah, Michelle cut her first morel this spring with me, her golden morels, and
this woman can find morels like nobody's business. We're walking along and she goes, "They're over there." I'm like, "What's over there?"
It felt like it grabbed my ankle, but
and she was right. There were morels hiding in this underbrush.
Under a bush.
And she got down on her hands and knees and crawled through there, and I'm like, "Wow, this is really a thing." And then we ate them, and I was like, "This is really a thing."
Yeah, that was why.
If you eat them,
So we expect to really explore mushrooms of the Pacific Northwest, and hopefully, you know, get out and go even broader in our next edition. We'd like to cover a lot more mushrooms.
Yeah, and incorporate like more diversity in cultures and everything.
It was so fun to have Camille's family recipes come in, and so I think, you know, we want to look for more of these kind of traditional recipes as well, and then taking old favorites is one of my passions. Is like, what do people love to eat? Let me make it not only plant-based but mushroom-centric.
Fish and chips was one of them. That was really fun.
We made an amazing fish and chip recipe that was, you know, straight up British. We loved it.
Was that lion's mane or oyster? What mushroom did you use?
It was a Combs tooth, I think.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was. We had Combs tooth. Someone was growing locally at the time. We can't get it right now, so you could easily use lion's mane. But those are recipes we've continued to work on, and then something I've found a real passion for recently is just making things easier. So, you know, finding simple ways, little hacks, getting yourself a George Foreman grill is the easiest way to cook mushrooms.
So easy.
So easy.
And delicious.
And
yeah.
delicious. And you just, you get a couple of your favorite sauces and you can grill those up in instants. And that's just been a game changer for me. I can make a quick salad and have my protein, and I love that.
Nice. So I'm just teasing, Michelle, but you're going to have a 4-hour Wagyu beef mushroom thing instead of an 8-hour.
Instead of 8.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's the fast
I'm only
recipe.
going to use 12 different devices and 6 techniques.
Yeah.
This was great.
I have a dream of like someday, throwing down some barbecue mushrooms with a pit boss. I really want to do that. I really want to do some barbecue mushrooms with a.
Go to Memphis or Kansas City for one of the barbecue.
That's what I want to do. I want to roll in there
Awesome.
with just mushrooms and
Right.
throw down with them.
That's great. That's great.
So I was going to share a quick picture,
Please.
just because this was our one.
Oh, yeah.
This was,
Look at those.
and our season actually starts the very beginning of March.
Wow.
So that was a nice kind of slow day.
Wow. That's gorgeous.
Wow, that's so fun. I was ridiculous foraging. I was squealing. I was so excited. I was like, oh! It was so fun.
It really
was
was.
so fun.
But it's like my precious.
Exactly. Yeah.
I barbecued
little
those.
olive-ish.
So I went ahead and threw whole morels on the grill when I was barbecuing ribs. I have a sauce. And that was like the best thing I've ever grilled was a whole morel.
I believe it.
They flatten out and they're chewy and they're so good.
Oh, there's the one Cornelia found. Yeah.
Putting that. No, I didn't find it.
The picture.
Oh.
I didn't find that.
So that's a 5-gallon bucket.
Right.
That's
We were talking about this mushroom earlier across the,
that's so crazy.
and
Wow.
what I was saying is that let me just stop sharing. What I was saying is I had just read recently that is a cultivatable mushroom. People have successfully cultivated it. So
That's so crazy.
That's fantastic.
yeah, it's supposed to have a really good texture too. So
I can't imagine how many people that would feed too.
I want one. I want to cook it right now. I want
I
to play with it. I'm like, give it to me. I can do so many amazing things with that.
Okay. Well, we are very close to 9, so I want to
Okay.
thank you so much for.
We had the best
Awesome.
time. Thank you for being with us tonight and sharing in the love of mushrooms and all things
Fungi.
food and fungi. And yeah, thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome, and there are lots of really great positive feedback in the chat. So
Oh, we'll have to. Yeah, we'll have
We'll
to take a look at
respond
that.
and
Yep.
thank you so much. And if you ever want to do an in-person dinner, we will totally come to Georgia.
well,
Yeah,
we'll
that
work
would
on that.
sound
I've already told Camille. So the NAMA, which is the big national foray every year, it is near Asheville next year,
Ah,
and
okay.
so and it will be. It's a beautiful location. So
there's
Elizabeth's saying come to Georgia.
Yes, we'll
Yeah.
do it, Elizabeth. We would love to come to Georgia. So let's hook it up and we'll come and we'll do some Georgian dishes and we'll do some tacos and steak and everything we can think of. It'd be so fun.
and also in our conversation with Camille earlier, she said that you'd be okay with us posting this on our YouTube channel.
Please, yeah, please. All spreading of spores is good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you so much, and thank you, club members, for coming and supporting. And we had at least 4 or 5 people, at a minimum, saying we're buying the book.
Oh, thank you guys
thank
so much.
And someone's
We're
buying too.
excited, and thank you for having us again.
Oh, thank you
Okay.
guys.
And enjoy finishing all that tasty food.
Yeah, when you turn this off. We're gonna eat.
Yeah, I saw a comment from Maria.
All right.
Eat that taco.
So-
we want to.
I just posted the dates for the North American Mycological Association for 2023 in the
Let's
chat.
go.
August 24th through 27th.
Yeah.
It'll be
And
a beautiful time.
It looks like us. We're coming.
And members, we do have a walk this Saturday, so sign up if you want to come, and also sign up for our culinary adventure at the Juniper Cafe with Chef Ronald Sue.
right.
So,
He's cooking
okay.
4-course mushroom